You've been waiting, waiting for the perfect timing, waiting for a sign, waiting for life to somehow tell you, now is the moment. But here's the truth. There is no sign coming, no flashing light, no magic moment. The world is not going to pause, line up the stars, and hand you a perfect starting point. That's the trap so many people fall into. They confuse waiting with preparing, but all they're really doing is delaying. And every single day you wait for a sign, you're losing the very thing you can't ever get back, time. You don't need a sign, you need a schedule. Because a schedule is the only thing that will save you when you don't feel ready, when you don't feel motivated, and when the excuses start screaming louder than your dreams. The most successful people you admire, they're not waiting for lightning to strike. They're not hoping for inspiration to knock on their door. They've built systems, routines, and habits that pull them forward, no matter how they feel. And if you give me your full attention right now, if you commit to listening to every single word I'm about to say, by the end of this, you'll never again wait for life to give you permission. You'll create your own momentum, your own clarity, and your own results. Most people don't even realize how much of their life is being stolen by this one habit, waiting. They're waiting for the perfect circumstances, waiting for all the lights to turn green before they leave the driveway, waiting for some sort of cosmic confirmation that it's finally their turn. And while they wait, days slip by, weeks vanish, and years dissolve into nothing but someday dreams. But here's the raw truth. You'll die waiting if that's your approach. Because there's never going to be a moment where every condition in your life aligns perfectly. Life is messy. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be doubt. And if you need all those things to disappear before you move, you will never move. We live in a culture that loves the idea of signs and signals from the universe, as if the universe is sitting around holding a clipboard, waiting to stamp approved on our dreams before we're allowed to act. That's not how it works. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel ready. You get ready by moving. The people who actually change their lives don't wait for the conditions to be right. They decide the conditions are right because they choose to start. That's it. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in history, every innovation, every success story, it didn't happen because someone sat in their room and waited for permission. It happened because someone said, I'm doing it now, even though the timing was inconvenient, even though they didn't know if it would work, even though fear was screaming in their ear. They didn't need a sign, they needed a decision. And here's the thing, you can make that decision right now, the same way they did. Waiting is seductive because it feels safe. It gives you a false sense of control. You tell yourself, I'm just being patient. I'm just making sure the time is right. But deep down, if you're honest, most of the time you're waiting because you're afraid to fail, afraid to look foolish, afraid to commit to something and realize it's harder than you thought. Fear disguises itself as logic. It will convince you to keep researching, keep thinking, keep talking about it instead of doing it. And while you're stuck in that loop, someone else out there, someone with less talent, less skill, and fewer resources than you is taking action. And they're winning. Do you know what separates them from you? Not intelligence, not luck, not some hidden advantage. It's that they stopped waiting for the right moment and decided to make the moment right. They got moving, they stumbled, they learned, they adapted. And while you're waiting for the perfect door to open, they're already building a whole house. I've met people who have been about to start something for years. I'm about to start my business. I'm about to get serious about my health. I'm about to write my book. And 5 years later, they're still about to do it. That phrase, about to, has buried more dreams than failure ever could. Because failure at least gives you a result. Failure teaches you. Waiting teaches you nothing. Waiting just teaches you how to wait better. If you've been in this pattern, you need to understand something. You're not lacking opportunity. You're lacking a commitment to act without guarantees. That's the muscle that needs to be built. Because in real life, the people who win, who aren't the ones who had all the answers, they're the ones who showed up over and over again and figured it out along the way. And here's the beautiful thing about choosing to act instead of waiting. You immediately take your power back. The moment you start, you stop being a passive observer of your life and start being the driver. You stop asking, when will it happen for me? And start saying, I'm making it happen for me. That shift in identity is massive. It changes the way you see challenges. It changes the way you see time. It changes the way you see yourself. When you stop waiting, you also stop outsourcing your destiny to chance. Because if you're always waiting for signs, you're essentially saying, I'll move when something outside of me tells me it's time. But if you take that power back, you start telling the world, it's time because I say it's time. That is the essence of leadership. Not just leading others, but leading yourself. I want you to think right now about something you've been putting off. Something you've been telling yourself you'll start when the timing's better. Maybe you're waiting for the kids to get older. Maybe you're waiting until you have more money saved. Maybe you're waiting until you feel more confident. Ask yourself honestly, how long have you been saying that? And if you keep playing that game, how many more years are you willing to lose? Because here's what I can promise you. The right time will never just arrive wrapped in a bow, delivered to your doorstep. Life will always give you reasons to wait. There will always be bills, always be obligations, always be some kind of uncertainty. You either decide to start in the middle of the chaos or you never start at all. And when you finally do start, something amazing happens. You realize you didn't need the perfect time. You just needed momentum. The act of moving forward, even clumsily, creates a rhythm that starts pulling you toward your goal. And once you're in motion, opportunities start to appear that never would have shown up if you were still standing still. The world responds to movement. Doors open for people who knock, not for people who stand outside, wondering if they should try. So stop looking for these signs. You are the sign. The moment you decide to commit, the moment you put something on your calendar and follow through, that's when life starts shifting. That's when you start becoming the kind of person who doesn't just dream, but does. It's time to stop waiting for the perfect moment. It's time to create it. Motivation is like a spark. It's exciting, it's bright, and it feels powerful in the moment. But the problem with sparks is that they burn out fast if there's nothing to keep them alive. That's why so many people start strong and then fade. They wake up one morning full of energy, ready to take on the world, and for a few days they're unstoppable. Then life gets messy. They get tired. The excitement fades. And suddenly that thing they swore they'd commit to becomes another item on the I'll get back to it someday list. Here's the reality. If your progress is built on motivation alone, you're in trouble because motivation is emotional. It's unpredictable. It comes and goes depending on your mood, your environment, and even how much sleep you got last night. If you rely on it to keep moving forward, you'll only move when you feel like it. And let's be honest, there will be plenty of days when you don't. Discipline is different. Discipline is what carries you through on those days when you don't want to do it. It's the quiet, steady force that doesn't care if you're tired, doesn't care if you're not in the mood, and doesn't wait for the stars to align. Discipline says, this is what I said I'd do, and I'm doing it no matter what. It's not glamorous, but it's unstoppable. Think about the people you admire in any field, athletes, leaders, creators, entrepreneurs. Do you think they woke up every day bursting with motivation? Of course not. They have bad days. They have days when they want to quit. But they keep showing up because they've built the habit of showing up. They've trained themselves to act based on their commitments, not their feelings. That's the difference between people who achieve at the highest level and those who stay stuck in cycles of starting and stopping. Motivation is like weather. It changes constantly. Discipline is like climate. It's steady. And when you have discipline, it doesn't matter if today's weather is sunny or stormy, because you've already decided what you're going to do. You've taken the decision, making out of the moment, and locked it into your schedule. That's the real secret. Remove the option to negotiate with yourself. The more you negotiate, the more likely you are to talk yourself out of doing what matters. This is where people get it wrong. They think, I'll wait until I feel motivated. But motivation is the result of action, not the cause of it. The very thing you're avoiding is the thing that will create the feeling you're waiting for. Ever notice how you never feel like going to the gym, but once you're there and you've done the work, you feel incredible? That's because action fuels motivation, not the other way around. Discipline is what gets you through the front door on the days you don't want to go. Now, let's talk about the role of a schedule here. Because discipline without structure is like a muscle without exercise. It won't grow. A schedule takes the guesswork out of your day. It removes the daily battle of deciding whether you're going to do something because it's already on the calendar. You've pre-decided. That's a huge shift, because every time you leave the decision to the heat of the moment, your emotions will try to hijack it. But when you've committed in advance and you see it as non-negotiable, you take emotion out of it. It's just what you do. I've seen people with massive talent fail because they depended on motivation to carry them. And I've seen people with average skill and resources win over and over again because they had iron discipline and a clear schedule. Talent might give you a head start, but discipline will take you across the finish line every single time. Discipline also builds something motivation can't. Trust in yourself. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, even a small one, you strengthen the belief that you can count on you. That's one of the most powerful forms of confidence you can have. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who honors their word, not just to others, but to themselves. And when you trust yourself like that, you can take on bigger challenges because you know you'll show up for them. The problem is, most people break promises to themselves far more often than they break them to others. If they commit to meeting a friend at 7 a.m., they'll drag themselves out of bed no matter how they feel. But if they commit to going for a run alone at 7 a.m., they'll hit snooze and tell themselves they'll do it tomorrow. That's a dangerous pattern because it sends a message to your brain that your own commitments aren't as important. Discipline flips that. Discipline says your word to yourself matters just as much, if not more, than your word to anyone else. And here's the beautiful irony. When you live by discipline, you actually create more freedom, not less. Most people think discipline means rigidity, control, and a boring life. But the truth is, discipline gives you control over your time, your energy, and your results. It frees you from the chaos of reacting to life all the time. It frees you from the mental exhaustion of constantly deciding what to do next. It frees you from the guilt of knowing you're not living up to your potential. That's real freedom, the freedom to trust yourself, to make progress, and to know that what you want is actually getting closer every day. There's nothing wrong with enjoying motivation when it shows up. Use it when you have it. Ride the wave, but don't depend on it. Build something stronger. Build the habit of showing up no matter how you feel. Put it on your schedule and treat it like it's already set in stone. If you commit to that, there will be days you surprise yourself with what you can accomplish, not because you felt like it, but because you did it anyway. Motivation might start the fire, but discipline keeps it burning until the job is done. Most people think a schedule is like a cage. They hear the word and immediately picture something rigid, something that takes away their freedom, something that locks them into a life with no spontaneity, no excitement, no flexibility. And so they resist it. They want to go with the flow, be free, live in the moment. But what they don't realize is that without structure, their so-called freedom is actually just chaos in disguise. Because when you don't control your time, something or someone else will. Here's the truth most people don't want to face. The absence of structure doesn't create freedom, it creates drift. And when you drift, you don't choose where you end up. You just end up somewhere. You react to whatever's in front of you, to whoever shouts the loudest, to whatever is most urgent, not necessarily what's most important. You become a passenger in your own life, going wherever the current takes you, and then wondering years later why you're so far from where you wanted to be. A schedule is not a prison. It's a map, and a good map doesn't restrict you. It frees you. It gives you a clear sense of direction, so you're not wandering in circles. It tells you where you're going and how you're going to get there, so you can actually arrive instead of just hoping you'll stumble across your destination one day. Think about it like this. Imagine you're going on a road trip. If you just jump in the car with no plan, no route, no idea where the gas stations are, you might feel adventurous for a while, but soon you'll get lost. You'll waste time. You'll burn fuel on roads that lead nowhere. And you might end up stranded, exhausted, and frustrated. That's what life without a schedule looks like. It might feel exciting in the moment, but long-term, it costs you way more than you think. Now, imagine having a route planned out. You know where you're stopping, how far you're going each day, and what you need to get there. Does that mean you can't make spontaneous detours? Of course not. You can still explore. But the difference is, you're exploring from a position of control, not desperation. You're choosing your path, not having it chosen for you. That's the power of structure. It gives you the confidence to adapt without losing your way. The irony is that when you commit to structure, you actually create more room for real freedom. Because when you know exactly when your most important tasks are getting done, your mind stops obsessing over them. You don't spend your free time feeling guilty or stressed because you're wondering, should I be working right now? You've already decided. And because you've made those decisions in advance, you're free to be fully present in whatever you're doing, whether it's working, resting, or playing. People underestimate how much mental energy they waste in indecision. Without a schedule, you're constantly deciding in the moment. Should I start this now? Should I rest? Should I check my phone first? Should I work on this or that? Every one of those micro decisions drains you, but when your schedule is set, you don't think about it. You just do it. That's not restrictive. That's liberating. Let's be clear. A schedule doesn't mean filling every single second of your day with work. It means designing your time with intention. It means choosing what matters most and locking it in so it gets done before distractions can steal it from you. It means protecting time for rest, for your relationships, for your health, because those things don't happen automatically. In fact, without structure, they're usually the first to go. Some people push back because they want flexibility. But here's what they don't realize. Without a foundation of structure, flexibility turns into inconsistency, and inconsistency destroys progress. You can absolutely have flexibility, but it has to live inside a framework. If you build a strong foundation, you can shift and adapt when needed without losing momentum. But if you have nothing in place, every shift knocks you off track completely. There's also another layer to this. Structure protects you from your own excuses. When something is on your schedule, it's harder to rationalize skipping it. If you don't have it written down, you can pretend you'll get to it later, and later almost always turns into never. But when it's scheduled, you've made a visible, tangible commitment, and that changes how you treat it. Think about elite performers. They don't just hope to fit in their training, they schedule it. They don't just try to find time to study, practice, or prepare. They block it into their day because they understand that the moment you leave something up to chance, chance will decide against you. Life will always fill your time with something else if you don't claim it first. And let's not ignore this. Structure doesn't just manage your time, it manages your energy. You can design your schedule around when you're at your best, so you're using your peak hours for your most important work instead of wasting them on distractions or low-value tasks. Without a schedule, you might end up doing your hardest work when you're at your most tired, and then wondering why it feels so much harder than it should. I know some people think this sounds too intense, but let me ask you this. How intense is it to look back at the end of the year and realize you're in the exact same place as last year? How intense is it to watch someone else pass you by, not because they're smarter, but because they managed their time with purpose while you were keeping it flexible? The truth is, if you want to do anything meaningful, build a business, master a skill, improve your health, deepen your relationships, it's going to require consistency. And consistency doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you make it happen. A schedule is simply the tool you use to make sure your time reflects your priorities, instead of letting your priorities get buried under whatever's loudest in the moment. I've watched people transform their lives just by getting intentional with their time, not by adding more hours to their day. They had the same 2 to 4 hours as everyone else. The difference was they stopped letting life happen to them and started structuring their life so it served their goals. And when they did, they didn't feel trapped. They felt free because they finally knew they were moving forward day after day without the constant anxiety of wondering if they were doing enough. That's why structure isn't your enemy. It's your ally. It's not there to take your freedom. It's there to protect it. Without it, your time will be stolen. With it, you can claim every hour as yours and use it for what matters most. And that's when you finally start living life on your terms. Everybody wants the big wins, the dramatic transformation, the overnight success story. The problem is, they're so fixated on the giant leap that they overlook the real engine of progress. The small, repeated, consistent actions that don't look like much in the moment, but add up to something massive over time. And here's the thing. Those little actions are exactly what most people skip because they seem too small to matter. They think, what's the point of doing just this one thing today? It won't change anything. But that's where they're wrong. Small commitments, repeated daily, compound into results that are so big they almost feel unfair. It's like interest on money. The longer you stick with it, the more it grows, and eventually it grows faster than you ever imagined. But just like compound interest, the magic only works if you keep going. You can't invest once and expect to retire rich. You can't do the work for a week and expect to have a completely different life. It's about stacking wins on top of wins until they reach a tipping point. Here's the challenge. Our brains are wired for instant gratification. We want to see proof right now that our effort is paying off. If we don't, we start to doubt ourselves, and that's where people quit. They mistake lack of visible results for lack of progress. But most of the real change is happening under the surface, where you can't see it yet. It's like planting a seed. You don't see the roots forming underground, but they're there. You know, building the foundation that will one day break through and grow into something strong. If you pull it out after 3 days because you don't see anything, you kill the growth before it even starts. The schedule is what protects you from that impulse to quit too soon. It keeps you showing up day after day, even when it feels like nothing is happening. It takes the pressure off of, is this working yet? And replaces it with, I'm doing the work because this is who I am now. That's a massive shift, because when the process becomes part of your identity, you stop needing constant external proof to keep going. You just do it because that's what you do. Think about someone training for a marathon. They don't just wake up one morning and run 6 miles. They start with short runs, then longer runs, slowly building endurance over months. To an outsider, those early runs don't look impressive, but over time, the small mileage adds up to the capacity to do something extraordinary. It's the same in business, relationships, health, or any goal worth chasing. What you do daily matters far more than what you do once in a while. The danger is, most people think they're not doing enough because they're comparing their daily actions to the end goal. They forget that the end goal is built one brick at a time. If you focus on laying just one solid brick every day, eventually you have a wall. But if you keep waiting for the day you can build the entire wall in one go, you'll be waiting forever. What's powerful about small commitments is that they're sustainable. They don't require massive willpower. You don't have to feel like a superhero to complete them. And because they're sustainable, you can keep doing them long enough to see the compounding effect kick in. That's when it gets exciting. When the results start to snowball and you realize that what once felt impossible is now your new normal. Here's where a lot of people mess up. They try to do too much, too soon. They set massive goals, overhaul their entire schedule, and then wonder why they burn out after 2 weeks. They underestimate the power of momentum. Momentum doesn't come from going all out for a short burst. It comes from building a rhythm you can maintain. And you build that rhythm by committing to small daily actions that move you forward. And those small actions aren't just about progress. They're about proof. Every time you follow through, you're proving to yourself that you can be trusted to do what you said you'd do. You're stacking evidence in your mind that you are capable, disciplined, and committed. That's how you change your self-image. And when your self-image changes, your actions naturally rise to meet it. The schedule turns this from theory into reality. Because when you schedule those small actions, they're no longer when I have time tasks. They're non-negotiables. You don't skip brushing your teeth just because you're tired. You do it because it's part of your routine. The same should be true for the habits that move you toward your goals. When they're locked into your day, they stop being optional, and that's when the compounding effect takes over. I've watched people who thought they were stuck for life completely transform, not because they suddenly made huge leaps, but because they committed to showing up in small ways every single day. Someone who couldn't run a mile became a marathon finisher. Someone who couldn't save $100 built a 6-figure investment portfolio. Someone who couldn't imagine speaking in public ended up leading teams and inspiring crowds. None of them did it overnight. All of them did it daily. Here's the thing. Big results aren't built in big moments. They're built in the quiet moments when nobody's watching, when you're tempted to skip, when it feels like it doesn't matter. But it does matter. Every rep matters. Every page you write matters. Every sales call matters. Every meal choice matters. And the beauty is you don't have to wait for the finish line to feel proud. You get to feel proud every single day you follow through. The schedule is your safeguard against drifting away from those small commitments. Without it, life will crowd them out with distractions, emergencies, and low-priority tasks that feel urgent in the moment. With it, you protect them like the investments they are, knowing that they will multiply over time into something far greater than the sum of their parts. So if you want the big wins, stop obsessing over the big wins. Start obsessing over the small wins you can create today. Because when you stack enough of those together, the big wins won't just be possible, they'll be inevitable. If you really want to know what someone values, don't listen to what they say. Look at their calendar. Look at where they spend their hours. Because no matter what we tell ourselves, our time tells the truth. If something is truly important to you, it will show up in how you schedule your day. And if it's not on your schedule, it's not a real priority. It's just a nice idea you keep in your head to make yourself feel good. This is where most people get stuck. They think their priorities are clear, but when you look at their week, you see a completely different story. They say health matters to them, but there's no time blocked for exercise or meal prep. They say their relationships are important, but their evenings are swallowed up by work emails or mindless scrolling. They say they want to build a business, but they never actually carve out time to work on it. They just squeeze it in when they can, which usually means never. The truth is, if you don't schedule your priorities, the world will schedule your distractions. Your time will be filled one way or another. And if you don't take ownership of it, other people's agendas will run your life. Your phone will run your life. Random emergencies will run your life. You'll be busy all the time, but none of it will be moving you toward what matters most to you. That's why a schedule isn't just about productivity. It's about alignment. It's about making sure your daily actions actually match your deepest values. Because when they don't match, you feel it. You feel the frustration, the restlessness, the quiet guilt of knowing you're not living the way you say you want to live. You feel like you're always behind, always playing catch up, always running, but never arriving. But when your schedule reflects your priorities, something shifts. You feel grounded, you feel in control, you feel like you're actually living on purpose instead of just reacting to whatever comes at you. And the best part is, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you deliberately choose to put the most important things on your calendar first, before anything else has a chance to take them. Most people do the opposite. They fill their schedule with obligations, chores, random tasks, and only after all of that is done do they try to fit in their goals and values. That's backwards. If you fill the jar with sand first, there's no room for the big rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first, the things that truly matter, there's always a way to fit the sand around them. And yes, this takes discipline. It means saying no to things that aren't in line with your vision. It means not letting other people's emergencies become your priorities. It means being willing to let go of things that keep you busy, but don't actually move you forward. That's hard for a lot of people because they're addicted to the feeling of being busy. Busyness feels productive, but it's often just a way to avoid the uncomfortable work that actually matters. Here's a challenge. Take a real, honest look at your schedule for the past week. Not what you planned, but what you actually did. Where did your hours go? What percentage of your time went to things you say are important versus things that just showed up? For most people, the numbers are shocking. And the good news is, that shock can be a wake-up call, a chance to stop living on autopilot and start being intentional about where your hours go. One of the most powerful things you can do is schedule your priorities at the same time every day or week. That way they stop being negotiable. They're not, when I get around to it, tasks. They're part of the rhythm of your life. You don't decide every morning whether or not to brush your teeth. It's just what you do. The same should be true for your health, your relationships, your personal growth, your craft. If it's important enough to be a priority, it's important enough to live on your calendar. And here's the thing, this isn't just about getting more done. It's about living with integrity. When your schedule reflects your values, you're not constantly torn between what you should be doing and what you are doing. You don't have to play the mental game of, I'll make up for it later. You're already living in alignment, and that builds a deep sense of self-respect. When you start scheduling your priorities, you'll notice something else. You get more energy. Not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you're not wasting energy on things that don't matter. You're not spread so thin across 100 little distractions. Your focus is on fewer, more important things, and that focus creates momentum. You actually get more done with less stress because you're working with intention instead of in reaction mode. It's also worth saying this. Your calendar will tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. If you say you value growth, but you don't have any time blocked for learning, training, or practicing, then growth is not a priority right now, no matter how much you wish it was. If you say family is your top priority, but they never get your undivided time, then you have to be honest about that gap. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about seeing reality clearly so you can change it. The beautiful part is, the change can start instantly. You don't have to wait for a new month or a new year to align your schedule with your priorities. You can start today, right now, by opening your calendar and blocking time for the things that matter most before anything else fills the space. Even if it's just 30 minutes a day to work on your dream, that's 30 minutes you've claimed for yourself, instead of giving away to the noise of life. Because at the end of the day, your calendar is more than a list of appointments. It's a mirror. It reflects not just how you spend your time, but who you are becoming. And if you want to become someone different, the fastest way to start is to put the right things on that calendar and protect them like they're non-negotiable. When you control your calendar, you control your life. People love to romanticize success. They think it's built on a single breakthrough moment, one lucky opportunity, one burst of brilliance that changes everything. And because they believe that, they spend their lives chasing the big move, the perfect plan, the overnight win. But if you strip away the hype and look closely at how real success is built, you'll see something very different. You'll see a pattern of ordinary actions, repeated relentlessly until they create extraordinary results. It's not sexy. It's not flashy. It doesn't make for the kind of viral story people share online. But it's the truth. The people who achieve the most aren't the ones who work in sporadic bursts of intensity. They're the ones who show up with the same energy and focus, day after day, year after year, long after the excitement has worn off. That's what turns ordinary into extraordinary. Consistency is a force multiplier. Doing something once might make you feel good, but doing it every single day, even when you don't feel like it, compounds into results that are almost impossible to stop. The problem is most people don't stick around long enough to experience that compounding effect. They start, they get excited, they put in a few days or a few weeks of results, and then they stop because they're not seeing instant results. They confuse lack of visible progress with lack of progress itself, and they quit before the real growth even begins. That's where the schedule becomes your lifeline. A schedule removes the question of whether or not you're going to do something. It takes discipline out of the realm of maybe and puts it firmly into always. It turns your actions into rituals, habits, non-negotiables. And once something becomes a habit, you no longer waste energy deciding if you're going to do it. You just do it. That's when consistency stops being a struggle and starts being your natural state. The truth is, anyone can do something once in a while. Anyone can work hard for a week, a month, even a few months when they're inspired. But to show up with the same standard over and over again, to keep going when the novelty is gone, when no one's watching, when there's no immediate payoff, that's rare, and that's why it's so powerful. Most people simply won't do it. There's a moment in any pursuit where the excitement fades. In the beginning, everything feels fresh and full of possibility. But sooner or later, you hit the grind. The days start to feel repetitive. The results aren't coming as fast as you hoped. You start asking yourself, is this even working? That's the moment that separates the dreamers from the doers. Because the dreamers stop when it gets boring. The doers keep going until boring becomes automatic, and automatic becomes unstoppable. Consistency also builds credibility, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through, you're sending yourself a message. I can count on me. That's the foundation of real confidence. And when you trust yourself like that, you stop questioning whether you're capable of reaching your goals. You already know you are because you've proven it in the small daily moments that no one else sees. And here's something most people overlook. Consistency doesn't mean doing everything perfectly. It doesn't mean you never miss a day, never have a setback, never feel off track. It means that even when you miss, you get right back on schedule. It means the interruptions don't throw you into a spiral because your default mode is still forward movement. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be relentless. Over time, consistency becomes your edge. While everyone else is burning out from chasing quick wins, you're building a foundation so strong it can't be knocked over. You're stacking so many days, so many reps, so much practice that your results start to look inevitable to the outside world. People will call it talent, they'll call it luck, but you'll know the truth. It was consistency all along. Think about any skill you've ever gotten good at. You didn't learn it in a day. You repeated it, refined it, made mistakes, corrected them, and kept showing up. That's how growth works. You can't microwave it. You have to cook it slow, let it build, and trust that each day you're putting another brick in the wall. And just like with building, the first few bricks don't look like much, but keep stacking them. And one day you'll step back and realize you've created something massive. The schedule is your protection against the temptation to stop stacking, because without it, you'll skip a day here, a day there, and before you know it, weeks have gone by. Momentum dies quietly at first, and then all at once. But when your schedule holds you accountable, you keep feeding the momentum until it starts feeding you back. And once momentum is on your side, everything feels easier. Not because the work changed, but because you've changed. The extraordinary thing about consistency is that it doesn't just produce results. It changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. You stop needing to hype yourself up to take action, because action is simply part of who you are now. That's the real win. Not just achieving the goal, but becoming the kind of person who achieves goals as a way of life. And here's the payoff. When you combine consistency with time, you get transformation. Not the short-term kind that fades when the hype dies, but the permanent kind that rewrites your reality. And the only way to get there is to keep showing up. No matter how small the step, no matter how slow the progress, no matter how ordinary the day feels, ordinary actions done with relentless consistency will take you to places talent alone can't reach.